прошлых видео с завода Fischer мы рассказали о разработке и производстве горных лыж. Отдельно поговорили о спортивных моделях и даже увидели, как измеряют индекс жесткости, или как спортсмены называют его флекс-индексом. Теперь пришла пора выяснить, зачем Fischer выпускает две серии лыж для гиганта – лыжи по требованиям FIS и лыжи Мастерс. Алоис Пибер, руководитель отдела исследований и разработок, как всегда подробно рассказал нам об этом.
The main questions is the giant GS skis for Masters, how they differ from the FIS, and what is better to take the Master skis or the GS national ski with 30 meters.
I have to go back 5 years to really answer this question that everybody can understand. 5 years ago we had a rule in FIS, rule in giant slalom, where we had a minimum width in the waist, and that's it. So not a radius, a minimum radius, let's say, with I think 27 meters. But within these 27 meters upwards, we had in the World Cup some playroom, because we had models using 27 close to the limit. But we also used at that time, for example, skis with 30-meter radius for some guys.
Yeah, and I remember that the fastest one was around 30.
Yeah. For example, Kalle Ballander was always using a bigger radius than for Manfred Möll liked the short one, but we had some playground. And then there was coming up this, let me call it crazy regiment. With 35 meters.
We will cut it, not to show
and
to
lengths of 195. And it was more or less horrible for the World Cup racers to come into the gate. So
it becomes not gliding but drifting more.
No, what I mean is
as it looks from on the screen.
Because it was so hard to carve the turn for them. So they were developed, let's say, 2-3 things developed automatically out of this situation. One is the physical condition. If I look back 5 years, besides some exceptions, guys who always were very strong in physical condition, but the average value in physical condition raised up dramatically. Because they did so much power and they realized the only chance they have is to do this, that they can handle this kind of skis. The second thing is that the boot setup was made much more aggressive, much more that the boot reacts really direct with no play, no let's say space, otherwise they wouldn't have a chance. And the third thing was at that time that I think you know these specific aluminium plates were coming very famous, which gave an additional flex effect when they pushed the ski. So, but in general it was a horror. And concerning the Masters, and this is why I go back in the history, the Master guys, they used before original World Cup equipment, which they still do in slalom, but even in giant slalom. So we had, because at that time the limit of the lengths with radius was not that strict, so we had a 193 or 191 master ski with 30 meters, a 188 with 26 meters or 27 meters, and a 193 with 183 with 24 meters. But we had this used in World Cup. Now the reglement was changed, so we had to act for this, because for the good masters, no one, definitely no one, was purchasing a 195 35 meter radius, because it was impossible for them to ski on. They used it sometimes for the Master Super G.
Yes, I saw. I saw that cases in Russia Master Cup.
And so we were forced to build up a separate Masters line. And this we have in the line. We have a 191 with 30 meters at the moment. We have a 188 with I think 28 meters, something like this, and a 183 with 23, 24 meters. So we had to build up this. And parallel, what we found is because we are also, when we do master development, we cannot test with the World Cup guys, so we have to test and develop this with the, let's say, master guys. And what we found is that because we built up the first prototypes in this range in the same width like the original World Cup skis now, which means the maximum of 65 millimeters. And the masters, what we tested and found out, they liked the old width with the minimum 65, which means that the new ski is around 67.5 due to the edges. And the reason behind what we tested and found out is because the slope conditions for masters races is much less in terms of compact, good quality surface. Than the World Cup.
Especially for the guy who have 200 number beep.
Yeah, especially for this.
Mogul skis. You're producing mogul skis now.
Yeah, and they found definitely ours, they like the wider one much, because then it's easier to handle these bad slope conditions. And this is the reason why we have parallel to the let's say FIS race skis, we have masters race skis. Definitely what I don't know, what the future will show us. Because some of the masters in the meantime they are using World Cup stuff here in Austria. So we have at the moment not a clear picture where the masters are really going. So it might happen that we keep the masters line for a longer time. At the moment we think so, but it might also happen for the closer future that the masters are going back to World Cup equipment, because when the FS will change back to the 30 meters, we designed the first skis for tests and so on, and we produced an old race ski 5 years ago with the same flags, same construction and so on at that time. And our thinking was, when we are minimum as fast with the new ones, with the old ones, where we're quite competitive or faster, we have done a good job. And from the very beginning, the old had no chance. Because in the meantime, the physical condition of the racers,
muscle weight
changed dramatically. The setup they are using now compared to 5 years ago is much more compact, much more direct. So we had to change the skis to much, let's say, much more rigidity, much more stability, because they can handle this.
General stiffness.
General stiffness was so. If you compare, we talked about a few minutes about flex index. At that time, 5 years ago, we had flex 62, 64, which is, flex is nothing else, and we show later on, you have a weight and it's the millimeters of,
we remember
very simple. And now, last season, we used flex 44, 46. So incredibly.
It's 1 centimeter.
Yeah. And this we found out, and but it was the first season this year. First season, and for sure the next 1-2 years there will be changes in World Cup stuff and in race stuff for the FIS level, because until everybody finds the right, or let's say the optimized combination.
And racers may migrate back from athleticism to the flexibility. And
yes, maybe. So the question is, and this is, let's say, maybe the explanation, or the explanation why I said we don't know what with Master is going on, because the final development of World Cup stuff is not finished. So we are working on 3 different new GS models for men and 3 women, which are significantly different than last year, and we will see what happens in the winter, and maybe it takes another year. Normally there's in 2 years you are close to the, let's say, to the optimum, and then we will see if the masters will go back to World Cup stuff or not. For sure it is in our brain when we are at the level that we say, okay, not to exclude the masters, to bring them in to test and to see what happens. Because for everybody it would be better if the masters using World Cup equipment. At the moment we have specific masters. The materials in the master ski constructions are the same, like a World Cup ski, or let me call it like a FIS race ski. And but it's different flex lines, different side cut and width to make the things easier for them or more fitting for them. But as we know, in slalom they're using original equipment and they are quite happy with this. So I hope, honestly speaking, I hope that with the development of the giant slalom World Cup stuff in 1-2 years, we can go back for the Masters with World Cup skis.
Okay, that sounds good, because it will be easier for us to sell this equipment.
It's easier for everybody.